Now Entering is made possible with support from Jackrabbit Coffee, Cultured Urban Winery, City of Anderson, Flagship Enterprise Center, Donahue Gas, with additional support from Community Hospital, Anderson Symphony Orchestra, The Toast, Lampco FCU, The Herald Bulletin, Madison County Visitors Bureau, Madison County Community Foundation, Madison County Historical Society, Howard Webb Insurance, Ascension St. Vincent Anderson, Holder Bedding. With a population of almost 55,000 residents, Anderson, Indiana, is the county seat of Madison County. The city is named after Chief William Anderson of the Delaware Indians and was originally named Andersontown. William Connor, an early settler in the area, sold his land to John and Sarah Berry, who donated 32 of the acres to the county, with the agreement that the county seat would move from Pendleton to Anderson. Mr. Berry surveyed and platted the layout in 1827. Anderson was incorporated as a city in 1865, with a population of 1,300. Through its 150-year history, Anderson has seen several economic booms as well as incurred major economic setbacks. But Anderson is a city of comebacks and resilient residents.
Hello, I'm Mayor Tom Broderick, and you are now entering Anderson.
The thing that I would like people to know about Anderson is over the years it has been so resilient. We've gone through what I determined to be 3 periods of economic growth followed by a bust. And each time that we had one of those periods, we rebounded and actually, in my opinion, stood taller than the time before. The very first time that we experienced an economic development was in the 1830s. The Indiana legislature had looked at the Erie Canal in New York State and saw how prosperous it was and how beneficial it was for the state of New York, economically speaking. And so the Indiana legislature said, you know, we could do something like that. And so the legislature authorized through an act in 1835 monies to be appropriated to develop canals in Indiana, and one of those canals was projected to come through this area. And the town of Anderson increased its population from 150 to 350 people. Unfortunately, in 1837, there was a financial crisis that began in Europe, swept through the United States, and what it did was call in the debt that had been borrowed, and the state of Indiana had borrowed the money to fund the canals, and they couldn't pay the bills. And so the state went bankrupt, and as a result, the canal construction stopped, and as a result of that, people began to leave the area. The second economic boom occurred with the gas boom, the discovery of natural gas here in East Central Indiana that stimulated business, because all of a sudden you have a free source of energy. And people began to come here. First were businesses to take advantage of that. Businesses began to prosper in Anderson, and at the same time, that brought wealth to the community. And it was during that period of time that Anderson built new fire stations, built new schools, expanded, annexed areas, and so forth, and a tremendous growth took place. They didn't conserve the gas as they should have. And what happened was that gas began to run out. Well, when the gas ran out, a lot of those businesses that had come here for that reason left. The third then would be in the mid-1920s, General Motors Corporation was looking around for facilities to buy, and they purchased a company here known as Remy Electric, who made electrical components for vehicles. They combined that with one of their facilities in Dayton, Ohio, to develop what was known as Delco Remy. And 2 years after that, they purchased a lighting company in Cleveland, Ohio by the name of Guide, and they moved Guide Lamp here 2 years after that. And those two companies were here for roughly 75 years. And at the peak of their employment, there were 24,000 people employed in Anderson between the two divisions. In the 1990s, GM decided to divest itself of its interest here in Anderson. By the early 2000s, they were gone entirely. I love Anderson, always have. It is a community that's extremely resilient. It comes back and seems to stand taller than it did before. And so for that reason, I'm excited that Anderson has an opportunity for some undiscovered reason to develop into something that will become an even greater community and carry on the legacy of this wonderful town I call Anderson.
Well, my name is Milton Otto. I've lived on historic West 8th Street on and off since December of 1972. They had a Easter walk down 8th Street, and that was now known as the first Gaslight Festival. The gas lights were put in as our street lights in 1973. They operated on natural gas, and then during the so-called gas shortage, we had to convert them to electricity. The festival started as a way to raise money to maintain those gas lights and pay for the natural gas and pay for the electricity through all those years.
My name's Michelle Lavelle-Slabe. My husband David and I moved back to Anderson in 2014 on historical West 8th Street. I've gotten involved with this festival because of Milt, and our neighbors like Milt. Some very good neighbors got together and we said, can we make this Gaslight Festival happen since this is the bicentennial year? And we said yes. The Anderson Gaslight Festival serves as a community event to honor our history and to unite our community with affection for the past, present, and future. And that's exactly how we feel. How can we tie us all together as a community? This year's festival, they can expect a lot. The day's gonna start off with yoga at Funk Park. While that's going on, vendors are gonna be lining the streets, getting ready for everybody to come. I think our parade's gonna kick off at 11 a.m., and that's going to be our marshal, Milt, and the mayor.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm honored to be asked to do that.
We do have tea time at the old historic Lambert home at Hendricks and 7th Street. We also have 6 homes involved with the home tours that are going to be opened for the community to come in. We have a car show coming as well, and Kids Zone with Anderson Police Department. We're hoping to have proceeds that will be going to the Anderson Police Department K-9 Division, as well as the beautification of historic West 8th Street.
I'm here to talk about the Paramount Theater with their Grand Page Theater organ. I was always fascinated with the organ. I started taking formal lessons when I was 14. In 1959, I was hired up at Alexandria Skateland Roller Palace, which had a 4-manual or 4-keyboard Wurlitzer theater organ and a Hammond organ. So I stayed there 4 years, and then one of my cohorts got me connected with the Paramount Theater. I've been there ever since. Started there in about 1989, and there was that little, I say little because it was littler than the one I've been playing, 3-keyboard or manual Page organ. It has a horseshoe type console. They rise up out of the pit, and there is rooms on each side of the theater itself for the pipes, and has shutters that I regulate with my feet. I've always been excited about that organ. There's not very many Page organs that were made in Ohio, and we have the original made in 1929. In 1990, we had our first Tradition in Anderson concert, and it was very much a success. We've had a concert every year since, and we've had more fundraisers for the theater, of course. But we've dedicated ourselves, Norm and I, to the theater free of charge all these years. It's our heart. We love it. It was my passion. It was my dream, and it came to pass. So why wouldn't I be here?
My name's D. Parsons, and I'm a cartoonist. I grew up in a not so good environment, and cartooning was kind of my only escape to find a way to express myself. Garfield was really the kickstart of everything art related for me. I remember going to a library that held a bunch of Garfield books, and one I actually still own to this day from that same library is Garfield's 6th book, Garfield Eats His Heart Out. And there was a particular comic in there that helped me learn how to read more because I wasn't a very good reader in school either. My first start was actually as a newspaper cartoonist. After high school, I had a friend that tricked me into doing newspaper comics, even though I was heavily against it at the time. He challenged me to draw 24 comics in a certain amount of time. He didn't tell me what that deadline was, but he gave me a certain amount of time to do these amounts of comics with Anna and Karami. And so I did those strips. And then he told me, oh, you did these in about 3 weeks when my deadline for you was 6. So you have the chops of being a professional cartoonist with this. So what I want you to do next is take these strips that you've made and take them to the Herald Bulletin to see if they'll actually run these strips. And luckily the editor, Scott Underwood, was free at that moment to be able to talk with me. So we spent a good maybe 20, 30 minutes in his office telling him about who I was, what my comics were about, and he read through them. And so one of the first things he told me was, your strips aren't funny, but I like the art of them. So I want to see you develop more strips, and throughout that time, we'll come back together and hear more about it in a couple months. In the winter of 2014, I was able to meet Jim Davis. We spent some time, about an hour or so, in his office talking about my comics and stuff. And at that point, he was like, I think this will be a really good opportunity for you, so let's see about getting your comics in the newspaper. So in April of 2015, that's when Karami started running as a daily strip. I've also done another comic series, which is called Pen and Ink, which is about 2 sisters that create art together. And the whole synopsis of that comic series is just art and art-related humor, and just about the self-expression of creating art. Rosebuds is my current comic strip that I do, which is syndicated through Andrews McNeil Syndication through their Go Comics website. And I am working with some friends on doing animated shorts with my characters. I'm also doing a bunch of comic book workshops throughout central Indiana, where I teach about just how to make comics and engaging characters and situations. The community has been nothing but supportive. When I was first starting with being professional, they got together and gifted me a big art monitor with several computer screens and then art desktops where I could start doing all my art on, because I was growing up not really with that stuff, and I couldn't really ever afford it on my own. So they got together and, gifted me that, and showed how much they supported what I did. The Anderson Museum of Art also did a museum exhibition with Karami and Pen and Ink called Drawn to Life, which showcased art and comics that I've done for both series up to that point. And people from out of state were even coming to see the exhibition, which was really nice. There was so many people that showed up for it, and it was an incredible experience. I have been incredibly blessed and thankful that Anderson has been as sweet and supportive to me as they have been.
Right now I'm retired, but I spent my business life doing a wholesale business in sheet metal heating and air conditioning. It started about 100 years ago. My father worked for Prudential Insurance Company in Muncie. At this time, he ran into Mr. Shingledecker in a service station who he'd known in Muncie. And Mr. Shingledecker said that he didn't know of anybody that had a business for sale, because Dad had asked him that he had 2 sons that were coming out of the military, and they wanted to get into something. So they parted. Span of time. They met again. And this time Mr. Shingledecker says, you got us thinking, and we would prefer to retire. So my brother Richard and I negotiated about the business and walked in the first day of August 1957, knowing nothing about it, that there were parts, kinds, styles, and sizes of things. That was the way I raised my family. and raised the boys. They went through scouting, and all three got their Eagle Scouts in time. And of course, I was a volunteer to help along with the boys. 31 years in the place. It got so that the factories left town for one reason or another, and so that was the base of my income. And so I ended up selling it all and paid off everybody but Charlie, and then went on to some other things. And I volunteered a lot. I was chair of the Economic Development Commission for about 20 years, and during that time, Nestle came to town. And then I also volunteered at St. John's Hospital for 25 years in the emergency room where my wife was a nurse. I was involved in Kiwanis and was president of the club and had 50 years of perfect attendance. And then also I was involved with the Red Cross and was chair of the chapter at that time. And then we had United Faith Housing, which was some senior citizens housing, and I was vice president of the board for quite some time there. And those were some of the major things that I kept busy with. I think the role of volunteering in the community helps smooth it out and makes it more enjoyable for more and more people. If there's a variety of volunteer jobs, positions, or things that are going on that people can involve themselves with, it helps the community grow and feel better in what they can do. I've enjoyed my life here in the community of Anderson. You know, we've raised 3 sons and they've gone on to do well. My wife and I enjoy our friends we have at church and within the community, and we just enjoy life here in the city because we know where to go and what to do.
I'm Darla Salee, and I am the new owner of the Toast Cafe. The Toast was built in 1951. It was the classic American diner, that 50s diner. There's been 2 additions. So the first one was added in 78, and it was a new dining room. It was all the big fanfare. And then they added on an ice cream parlor. Let's see, that was in 1982. I just recently purchased the Toast with my husband, and we love this community, and we love the Toast and what it means to not only my family and my story growing up and my parents' story when they would go to the Toast, but it also means so much to this community. And we just really didn't want anything to happen to it. We wanted to preserve it, so that's why we decided to purchase it. It's exciting to restore it. We are taking it down and demoing it pretty far down to the studs, and then we're just going to recreate it to as close as we can get to that original diner in 51. Those gentlemen did a great job. As we've been demoing, we've been finding all kinds of treasures like the steel walls in the original diner and those iconic pieces for our community. And so we've been hanging on to those so that we can reuse them and really display its beautiful history. We are renovating the iconic sign as well. A lot of historical value in that sign, and so we wanted to be sure that we brought it back into working order. And to see that sign lit up, I think will be a really great thing for Anderson residents. The community is extremely invested in the Toast, which has been kind of fun to experience. We've had people dropping by during the demo and giving us their opinions on what we should be doing. People tell me all the time, oh, I walked by the Toast and I appeared in the windows, so if I appear on your security cameras, that was me, don't be alarmed. And I noticed that you're doing this or that, but you should probably do this or that. That's just the fun part of it, because there is such buy-in from this community. The Toast is a very important piece of the Anderson history. I've had some correspondence from folks who have said, hey, you know,
My family meets there in the mornings with a group of people, and they're just desperate for this to get back open so that they can have that sense of community again. And for a lot of these folks, this is the reason why they would get themselves up and moving in the morning, was to meet their friends and family at the Toast. And we want to provide that kind of hospitable experience for them once again. And so we're going as fast as we can in order to get them that opportunity to meet back.
Lamco Federal Credit Union started in 1962. It was initially set up to be a provider of financial services for Guide Lamp employees. Interesting point about Lamco is that it started off in-house, and it started off with employees trying to find a way to provide financial services.
They wanted to be able to just walk out the back door, basically, 2 blocks down the street, and they could cash their checks, deposit their checks, get a loan. They wanted to have good rates and benefits.
First membership was $0.25 to become a member.
Our members initially consisted of, you had to work for what we called a SEG group, General Motors, ABC Rail, a lot of the smaller factories in town. As things changed and evolved, as factories started to slow down and some even closed, we opened that up to what we call a community charter. So anyone currently that lives, works, worships, volunteers, or attends school in Madison County can be a member.
Today we have 2 facilities. We have one branch that's still our administration branch, and our branch on Scatterfield. Anderson has changed a lot over the last 20 years or so, where it was called the Great Migration, and people came from across the country to come to this town. And so what happened was, after those factories have slowly dwindled down, those same families are here. And so the biggest challenge has been the industry going from an industrial industry to more of a service segment business industry.
Well, I think we evolved to meet the needs of the community. We participate in the community, and I believe that's how we've maintained and sustained even after factories have left. We provide a lot of services for a range of people.
We've gone through a lot of changes over the last few years. If you all think about 2008, there was a financial crash and crisis. Before that, we had the factories that kind of left town. Through that, which were some really tough times, we were fortunate enough to have some phenomenal women at our credit union that helped us survive. When things got crazy, I watched them every day go above and beyond.
There's definitely a pride, with union pride, and still in Madison County. And a lot of our members, they do come in and they still talk about the old days and how proud they were to have worked for General Motors and retired from there. I was raised on General Motors wages. My father retired from General Motors after 42 years.
Most of my entire family has worked at General Motors and Delco Remy and Guide Lamp. My father did 30 years, and it's weird that you have executives talking about a union and being proud of it, but that's where we come from. We're all in this together, but we try to give a little bit to a lot of people to really help build the community and let them know that we still care and we're still here.
My name is Sister Eileen Flavin. I'm a Holy Cross sister from South Bend, Notre Dame. In 1893, our Sisters of the Holy Cross were teaching in town here at St. Mary's School. And John and Maria Hickey, he was a business owner here in Anderson, and his wife was very ill, and he was looking for someone to help care for his wife. Sister Victoria, along with the other sisters, came to help care for Maria. After Maria passed away, John deeded the land that they had to the Sisters of the Holy Cross to be used for the city of Anderson for health care. The hospital has been here since 1894. In the early days, it was a lot of comfort care, cooking, laundry, doing that kind of thing.
It's been a vibrant history and just a celebration of the sisters and their founding of healthcare in this community. Although it's been through about 7 transitions in different names, the sisters have always played an integral part in healthcare in the delivery, as you can see, still to this date. I think what's great about the sisters and their selection of health systems and who to partner with is really in the continued mission that is very consistent to the sisters in their beginning. Ascension's mission is really to serve compassionately with personalized care, but especially to those who are poor and most vulnerable. Really, the role that it plays in the community is to continue to serve all persons with great care, but also to provide jobs and stability to the economy. The American Hospital Association most recently celebrated and recognized Ascension St. Vincent Anderson Hospital for 100 years with the American Hospital Association. So it really speaks to the commitment of high quality care and the role that it plays in being a leader for innovation and the delivery of quality care and advanced care in a community.
My name is Terry Truitt, and I serve as the CEO for Flagship Enterprise Center. The Flagship Enterprise Center is an incubator, and we're here to try to help other people to grow their businesses. Back in 2003, the City of Anderson was having some struggles economically. The City of Anderson and Anderson University came together to try to build something, to launch something to help the local community. And what they came up with was the Flagship Enterprise Center. We do more than just help startups. We also help existing businesses grow as well. Often, they find themselves stuck in one way or the other. And so we're there to give from here to there and then to go on their own. So for example, if someone has a challenge with their inventory systems or trouble with social media, trying to grow sales, or if they need money and they don't have any money, you can't borrow from a bank. We're there to come alongside them to help them get the capital that they need. So at the Flagship, the people who work there, myself, we're there because we want to help other people. And the best tool that we have to do that is to try to help businesses grow. We have to show ourselves worthy of that trust. And that comes with building a relationship. We have to know them. We have to be their associate, their friend, their partner, their neighbor. We have to come alongside them to help them try to do what they're trying to get done. About 1.5 years ago, we were talking with a firm that was located in Fishers, Indiana. And they had outgrown their current capacity, needed more space. We began to talk about the possibility of them coming to Anderson, Indiana. We had space available for them. The City of Anderson came alongside them, developed an economic package to bring them in town, and they're here even today with about 50 employees, hoping to grow to 25 more in the next 6 months. Our intent is to try to help other people with what we're doing, and it's a lot of fun. We have a good time. I'm there to help other folks. Teammates are there to help other folks. And we can see that happening right here in our community. We're excited about what's happening with the grocery store coming in, with the hardware store coming in on the west side. And our hope is to come alongside those businesses and to help them start and to grow to make that a viable economic unit again. So the Flagship Enterprise Center has found its home right here in Anderson, Indiana. We serve all 92 counties of Indiana. We serve Anderson, Madison County, and the entire state of Indiana. However, our home is right here, and we intend to stay here. Our intent is to continue to help the City of Anderson and its residents to go and to grow even more.